Are you over 50 and wondering what happened?
All the time.
Sometimes I look in the mirror and wonder, who's that old fart?
Yeah, I wondered that about you too.
Listen as CJ and I stumble through the wonderful world of being over 50.
Like the stereotypes of being grumpy, forgetful, and technologically inept.
And don't get me started on the mystery muscle pain.
Actually, myself, it does hurt.
And we'll talk about other joys of ageing, like funding retirement, mailing a stool sample, and working with millennials.
Join us on the downhill run to the old folks' home.
Welcome to What's My Age Again? This is me, Scott.
And this is me, CJ. Welcome to What's My Age Again. So, what have we got for the listeners this episode, Scott?
Well, our goal this episode is to answer the question, why does society consider 50 to be old?
It sounds like a fairly deep and interesting subject. What are we covering this episode?
Okay, well, we're going to talk about how life expectancy has changed over the years. And we're also going to talk about how artificial intelligence is biased against people over 50. And what's our You're Not Helping segment about this week, CJ?
I just need to do something else. Start without me. Let's get on with the show.
You had one job.
I'm over 50.
So we've been talking about how society views people over 50 years old. Today, we're going to look at why society views people over 50 years old. And I believe it goes right back to the dawn of time. I actually think cavemen have a lot to answer for, because for the hundreds of thousands of years humans have been around, we haven't lived our current settled lifestyle very long. We were hunter-gatherers for 95% of the time humans have been on Earth. So farming and animal husbandry are relatively recent inventions.
I think you'll find that making your animal a husband is illegal, Scott.
Well, yeah, I guess so. Anyway, if you think about it, hunting mastodons for a living is a whole lot more dangerous than planting corn or milking cows.
No, I don't think you've seen how my uncle milks cows, but carry on.
Well, the average lifespan of prehistoric humans was very low.
Well, it's the whole, drinking, carousing, killing woolly mammoths, fighting off saber-toothed tigers, all that kind of stuff. I've seen the Flintstones. I understand how all this stuff works.
Yes, well, I don't know what the Flintstones' lifespan was. Well, a super old person back then would have been like 33.
Oh, so they had superheroes back then.
Yes, super old.
Super caveman.
Anyway, it got me thinking, and it made me wonder whether humans just haven't really evolved. If the average lifespan of a human in the natural world was just 30, then we're braining it. We're going so far past that. It's no wonder that we're struggling to know what to do with the time sometimes, and also how to treat people who are older, because we just haven't evolved to even deal with that.
So I think what you're suggesting is that all the millennials and Gen Zs are just not evolved, and that's why they don't know how to treat people who are older than them.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying, CJ. Yeah.
That's what I thought.
Anyway, so I thought it might be a really good idea to look at average human lifespans over the last, 10,000 years.
As long as we're not doing it individually. The podcast might go on a bit too long.
We're doing it in real time. But we're going to look at how the human lifespan changed over history. So, of course, in a way of trying to research this, I went looking for some peer-reviewed research on the topic.
That seems very you, and I'm sure that there would have been lots of stuff that was written at the time.
Yes, chiselled onto stone, painted on walls in caves, all that kind of stuff, but no. In fact, while it was quite on brand for me to look for research, I ran into a bit of a hitch, because the papers I found were really, really boring, and worse, I couldn't quite understand them. So I took refuge in Wikipedia.
Yeah, that's always reliable. I don't want to downplay credibility of Wikipedia, but a friend of mine, when he has an argument with somebody, if the other person won't come around to his point of view, he'll go, yeah, all right, we'll leave it there, and then he'll go to the bathroom. While he's in the bathroom, he'll go to Wikipedia, add his point of view to the entry, come back and go, do you know what I was just thinking? Look it up on Wikipedia and see what Wikipedia says. That's always a good.
So I thought we'd have a run through of the article and we'd see where it leads us.
That sounds like a great idea.
This article was about human life expectancy over the years. And there's a nice, interesting little table here which gives us some insight into human life expectancy. Now, life expectancy, when they list it, actually takes into account infant mortality. So from birth, it drops down the average because so many kids died in their first year of life that the average gets dropped down significantly.
Just taking an unfortunate turn.
Yeah, so if you reached the age of 15, you had a fair chance of living a fair bit longer, but you had to get there first.
Ah, that's what my dad used to say to me.
Anyway, it turns out that Paleolithic senior citizens had a really important job. I was reading an article in The Guardian, which is pretty upmarket for me, called "The Wisdom of Grandparents Helped the Rise of Prehistoric Man." Okay, it quoted an anthropologist whose name was Professor Rachel Kaspari, who believes that a surge in numbers of elderly humans triggered a cultural explosion. And it helped to establish our species as masters of the planet. So you get to thank the geriatrics for humans being masters of the universe.
No, I think you'll find it's He-Man that you get to thank for being masters of the universe.
I get you, He-Man. I'd like doing my Skeletor impersonation. Anyway, these elderly prehistoric people, elderly elders, I think you'll find that's a technical term. They passed on knowledge of poisonous food, the location of water supplies, and important skills such as tool making. And that was a quote from a gentleman whose name was Professor Chris Stringer, who was the author of the recently published The Origin of Our Species. I'm not quite sure what Charles Darwin would think about that, but anyway, good on him.
Is this it's plagiarism if you take it from one place, it's research if you steal it from two?
Well, you know what? I'd like to introduce him to my book, which is called Remembrance of Some Things Past, or Jaws-ish. What he also goes on to say is when it came to disputes over access to waterholes or to land rich in game, the more elders there were to remember the distant relations with other tribes, the better it would have been to negotiate and share resources. He says older people would have been vital to survival.
But I have to say, it's not that clever that the elders are passing on the knowledge of poisonous food, because that's just the I'm not stupid enough to eat anything. That's people who, when I was at school, were going, you should eat that. Go on, see what. No, you should. You'll be all right. I bet you'll be all right. No, mushrooms are good, man. You can buy mushrooms in the shops. Why would you pay for it when you can just get one out of the ground for nothing?
But it's bright green with yellow spots.
Yeah, that's the elders. They're the ones who are doing all that shit. Eat that egg thing. That thing that just came out of that chicken's ass. Have a go at that. Have a go at that.
Someone had to be the first. So in the old Stone Age, the first Stone Age, your average was between 22 and 33.
Oh.
Okay, but if you got to the age of 15, you could probably live to 54. Okay,
because you get through the high school kind of years where
yes,
all the elders are going, "Hey, eat this, see what happens."
Yes, or the bullies don't sort of kill you behind the cave shed. Humans got so hungry they learned how to farm and husband animals, and things got even worse.
Yeah, I would have thought that farming would have made things better.
Well, yeah, it did eventually, but humans had to learn how to farm, and that took ages.
It's not that hard to
hundreds of
farm.
years. Well, it's hard to farm and get it right. I mean, it's easy to plant things in the ground, but, year after year and trying to do it for hundreds, it might be okay for 10 years, then suddenly there's a drought or whatever. They didn't learn to store food, they didn't learn to rotate crops, they didn't learn all that stuff for a while, and I think there were a lot of mishaps along the way, and a lot of farmers died because they were stupid or they didn't know any better. So a lot of people starved to death, and for a while, the average lifespan dropped still further. Life expectancy was 20 to 33, but that was at age 15. you could live to be 33. It dropped 21 years when farming was invented. So
At no point did anybody go, "Fuck this farming"?
Well-
This seems like a terrible idea.
yes, well, you might have thought that would happen, but it seemed to, well, I guess it happened really slowly. They didn't just go, okay, we're going to stop hunter gathering now and take up farming. So by the time people got to the point where they realised they weren't living as long, they'd forgotten how long they used to live. They're not thinking, well, Grandpa lived to 54 and here am I, I'm an old man at 36. They didn't see it like that. So moving along to the Bronze and Iron Age, and again, they didn't get much better than 36 years. So that's total life expectancy at 15. So they really weren't a whole lot better. They got an extra 3 years if they were lucky.
Wow.
And you get to classical Greece. Okay, so
That's a top album. Sorry, I'm thinking of Classical Gas.
Okay. Classical Greece. Where the people walking around in bed sheets, waving their fingers in the air and saying, "Aha, Eureka! I found it."
That was me on the weekend.
I'm not going to ask what you found.
That's the least concerning part of that story.
They actually dropped a little bit there too, 25 to 28 at birth. But once they got past 15, then they were ranging between 37 to 40. But if you got to 30, you had a pretty fair crack at reaching 50 or 60. So there were a couple of milestones you could reach. But about half of all children died before adolescence. So, you had to have a couple of kids to make sure you had a few get through the great filter, basically.
Well, there was lots of because classical Greece, that was where they started all the drinking and carousing and all that sort of stuff.
The god of wine.
Yeah, so it kind of explains the child neglect component. Yes. What this tells me is that the Neolithic people who would live to 33 years were apparently much smarter than the classical Greece people who would die generally before that, unless they managed to live to 30 without getting stabbed by somebody, which seemed to be a big thing back then.
In ancient Rome, they upticked a little bit. They got to 33, an average of 33 at birth. If you got to 20, you'd probably be able to get to 50. Okay, so amazingly, Julius Caesar, who we all think was taken before his time and was stabbed to death, he was 55, so he was actually right up there. He actually probably couldn't have expected to live a whole lot longer. If seeing, 50 might have been an average for someone who'd lived as long as he had and gone through all the wars and things he'd gotten through.
So why is it such a big thing? He would have been dead in a couple of weeks anyway.
Yes, exactly. I don't know, but it is certainly a big. So after the fall of Rome, we get to the Middle Ages.
Kind of like 40 and 45. When you start to have the midlife crisis. Right.
Middle Ages. Medieval era. How about we use medieval era instead?
Okay.
So medieval era. To me, I always think of Monty Python and the Holy Grail, and he must be not covered in shit. And that's how I think of the Middle Ages or medieval people. So not very great personal hygiene. And surprisingly, they've still ticked up a little bit on ancient Rome. They're getting to about 35. But anyone who survived to 40 had a crack at reaching 60. Right. But they were probably also the nobles rather than general shit kickers. Later in the medieval period...
I'll jump in here and make a confession. The ELO song Evil Woman, for quite a long time, I thought was Medieval Woman. When I found out it wasn't, it explained a lot.
Yes. Wonder what Jeff Flynn had a thing for medieval women. Anyway, and then later in the medieval period, things, didn't get a whole lot better. They may have been able to reach 64 if they got to 21, so it's not too bad.
To summarise, we started at Paleolithic.
Yep.
Into medieval. How many years are we talking about? 30, 40? 70?
Okay. So nearly the Paleolithic to medieval, that's probably about 10,000 years.
So we actually haven't improved our lifespan too much in 10,000 years.
No, exactly. And you'll see later on that things get a whole lot better in a very short space of time. But for a long time, things hadn't really gone very far at all. Now we're gonna leave Europe. We're gonna go to the Aztec Empire, and they had.
This is the Billy Thorpe era.
This is not the Billy Thorpe era, no. So the average Aztec life expectancy, if they made it to 15, was 41 years for men and 42 for women. So pretty close to one thing there. But their biggest problem probably wasn't malnutrition so much as not being sacrificed on a temple. The Mesoamericans never met a heart they didn't want to cut out of somebody.
It was less about not having enough food, more about having your heart ripped out.
Basically, yeah.
Okay.
If you could run fast enough and had good connections, you'd probably get a little bit older than that. They certainly love sacrificing people. They on one lot of statistics I read, they would sacrifice about 20,000 people a year.
Jesus Christ.
So,
well, not because he wasn't born there, but
the Mesoamericans, they were a bit morbid. They were so into death that they had a number of
that they ripped 20,000 hearts out a year.
Well, there's that. But they were doing that to appease their bloodthirsty gods. And one of their bloodthirsty gods was rumoured to be wandering through the countryside, basically as a skeleton. But this skeleton had sort of encased in its chest a heart that was beating inside its chest, and you could see it because it's obviously a skeleton. So it's got no skin, but you can see this heart beating away inside its chest. And it used to challenge people, if they go through a village and challenge people to try and take its heart,
This is like an early Kwai Chang Caine.
Yes.
Can you grab the rocks from my hand? Can you rip the heart from my ribs? One of my questions was going to be, did nobody notice that 20,000 people were getting their heart ripped out every year? But the fact that they had a skeleton with a still beating heart that would go around, presumably to bars, trying to win drinks, going, see if you can rip my heart out. Go on, have a go. Yeah, if you can't, you need to buy me a beer. You haven't got a stomach. It's beside the point. That would make sense why nobody noticed 20,000 people a year having their hearts ripped out.
Oh, for them, it was just normal, business as usual.
So moving right along with our list, you get to the 18th century in England, and it ranged from about 35 to 40, but the elite got to about 40 to 50. So it wasn't that great. I mean, we sort of think about them all being old fuddy-duddies, but in fact they were dead by 50, mostly.
Fuddy-duddy.
Those people. And in 18th century Prussia, they were all mad about wars, their average was 24.7. I think they were just sort of mulched up in the war machine. Yeah, looking down, not a great jump until we get to 1950.
And we stopped killing people in wars.
Well, yeah, that's true. So, but even so, the world average in 1950 was 48. In North America and Europe, Australia, it was around about 60. But the quote-unquote third world countries where people were starving,
right.
they dragged it down, so they just weren't doing their part.
That's why Bob Geldof had to come in and help. Yeah.
Exactly, yes. And that was why mothers kept telling us that the starving children of Biafra would just love our dinner.
Are you going to send it to them, Mum?
Yes. Okay, and now you look at the world average in 2020. Got to, for women, 75, for males, 70.
Shit, so we've virtually doubled our life expectancy in 70 years.
Yep. And I think you could put that down to antibiotics. You can put it down to just general better diet, better hygiene in general. So it has gone up a lot. And that's why I think we're kind of staring in the face the issue where we've got this longer period of retirement where people find it hard to know what to do with themselves. Like we were saying earlier, the Paleolithic, their midlife crisis went for about 10 seconds before they got devoured by a saber-toothed cat. Like we're a little bit past our use-by dates as far as society is concerned, and we're not really genetically predisposed to living as long as we do. We seem to have managed it, but we're not really meant to do it.
So what you're suggesting is that we need to do like Jurassic Park and get more saber-toothed cats.
That's what I'm suggesting, CJ. Absolutely my suggestion.
Oh, I'm glad that I picked up on the key point.
I thought I was being a little bit obtuse, but you picked up on it exactly.
So actually, interesting, I was reading a thing the other day that said, are we prolonging life too long? So it's becoming less that we live longer and more that we're causing people to live longer when previously they should have already died.
Well, that depends on quality of life, doesn't it?
Yeah.
If you're living in pain and rocking backwards and forwards, weeping all day, then you've probably got past your use-by date.
I'm apparently past my use by date then. The article that I was reading was kind of talking about people being alive for the sake of being alive rather than being alive. It's just more about not dying than being alive in inverted commas.
Well, I'd agree with that. I've just in the last few years, both my parents died, and they were, I would say, they lived about 5 years past a time where they were enjoying life. But then my grandfather died in 1962. He was like 72, and he died of a heart condition that today would have been easily treated. And at the time, he was still doing things like he'd excavated the backyard himself by hand and chopped out all this stone and built a stone garage while he had a heart condition. If he'd managed to have that cured, like he could have had it done today, he probably would have built the pyramids or something. I don't know.
It does beg the question of, was he supposed to have excavated the backyard with his bare hands and built a stone garage?
Well, by all accounts, and my grandmother, I didn't ever meet him. He died before I was born, but my grandmother was quite a formidable lady, and I think
He was trying to hide from
most
her?
of his time. He was trying to hide from her, literally trying to hide from her. So he spent his time in the backyard, and I think when he wasn't excavating it, he was in the shed doing other things.
Where's your husband? He's out the back digging a hole in the backyard with his hands. Wouldn't it be quicker to do it with a shovel? It possibly would, but he's insisting that it's important to do it by hand.
If you look at photographs of him and my grandmother, though, it's early. He died at 72. 10 years earlier, there's a photograph I have of them where they would have been in the early 60s, so not far off what I am, and they looked ancient. They didn't look wrinkly old, but they dressed old. They had old hairstyles. They looked like older people. And like we see people that age now, and they may look old in the face, but they don't have that kind of I am an old person vibe about them.
Yeah, I can remember when I was a kid, like somebody who was 50 or 60 was old. Friends of my mother's, they had the blue rinse hair and...
Oh, yeah, that's right.
You know, the dad's winding down to retirement. And, yeah, all right, well, let's start wrapping up this entire life thing. Whereas nowadays, if you know, when you're hitting 60, it's time for your second midlife crisis. And actually, I wonder whether if we were able to look through their eyes as to what they considered old for them, for their parents, because they would have seen their parents as old. And if that's going back into the 1940s or 1940s, 1950s, where it was the life expectancy was 50 odd, then the idea for them, I guess, of being old was very different to what we would expect it to be as well. So they were probably going the same as we are. You know, well, when I was 50, or now that I'm 50, I look back at my parents and go, Jesus Christ, look how old they were when they were 50.
Yeah. The other phenomena that I was thinking about the other day was, I remember when I started working, a couple of guys I worked with were older and retired not that long after I started working. And they both retired at 65 and died. They didn't have, they sort of, they had nothing to do. They had no purpose in life anymore. And it seemed like that was their cue. It was like, oh, well, I've got nothing better to do. I'll die now. And you don't seem to hear so much about that anymore. I think that phenomenon, well, like you're saying, retirement is a bit of a pipe dream nowadays.
Yeah.
But I think certainly if I had to retire, I could find things to do with. I wouldn't feel like it was the end of the earth.
Fuck yeah! There's a lot of internet out there.
Absolutely, you could never read all the internet.
I could kill plenty of time. I could retire tomorrow and be fine. I could fill my days very, very easily.
Just with Netflix.
Exactly.
Well, my dad retired. Because he was like a bee in a bottle. He could not be contained. So he used to drive my mother crazy because she was used to the home being her domain. and they'd moved into a 3-bedroom unit rather than the big house they had. So he had no yard. All he had to do was, he was forever running around vacuuming and cleaning and driving her absolutely crazy because he didn't do it properly. And so she had to go and do it anyway. So he didn't actually help her at all. But he was trying really hard just to give himself something to do. So, yeah, it's a problem. And I think probably one of the challenges we face is trying to find a way to make those extra years we're having better.
Yes, and
useful.
To add value to them. So it's, a friend of mine, Bob, was saying the other day of, yes, it's great to be able to say I can retire at 67, but at 67, will I be able to, stand at the bottom of some 1,000-step statue in Thailand and go, yeah, shit, I wish I'd come here 10 years ago when I could actually walk up there, but now I can't.
Well, I mean, I'd love to go to Machu Picchu, but apparently there's a whole lot of walking in that even now, I think, because it's such a high altitude, it's thin air and all sorts of stuff. It's not just a matter of fitness, it's a matter of everything. Like, you're to be younger to do that, and it's something I won't ever do. So I think there are certain things you just got to do when you're younger. But, in this day and age, when it's so hard to buy a house when you're young. Now, these young people nowadays, they have such a mountain to climb to buy a place. They can't afford. Well, after they've married, they can't really afford to travel. They spend an awful lot of time travelling before that, I think, or they did until COVID. I think nowadays it's a bit different. There's a lot of frustrated young people who can't travel at the moment. So yeah, I don't know.
Sort of blowing them up.
Something.
So I wonder whether in Paleolithic times, at 13, if people were going, fuck, I wish I'd done something more with my life. I really wanted to go and see those rocks over there in the distance,
yes.
but maybe build a garage out of them.
What's a garage?
But I think it's too late for me now. I'll be 14 next week.
Oh, mate.
Holy shit, there's a saber-toothed cat.
It's coming right at me. Well, it seems our script has come to an end.
And now, a word from our sponsors.
Why was the God of the Old Testament so crazy? Why did Sumerians have temple prostitutes? And why did the Mayans give each other tobacco enemas? Lightbulb Moments in Human History has the answers. Lightbulb Moments in Human History is the book you never knew you had to read. Available in February 2023 at all good bookstores. And some bad ones too.
Okay, so CJ, I had an idea for a new segment because I've been playing around with something called...
Oh, hang on, I don't want to... okay, sorry. Yep, Karen. Sorry, that wasn't what I was thinking you were going to say there, but...
I don't think I'd be quite so open as that, CJ. But I thought I had an idea for a new segment, and I thought playing around with ChatGPT, it's an AI chatbot, and you can ask it questions, and it will give you answers, and the answers can be quite interesting. Like the other day, I asked it to write a limerick, and it can write a limerick, and it does all the right things for a limerick. I asked it to write a dirty limerick, and it said, "No, I'm sorry, I'm not allowed to do that because I'm an AI."
So just for because our audience is potentially predominantly over 50, and we're bad with technology and don't really understand all this sort of thing. What's AI stand for?
Artificial intelligence.
We're back to my workplace.
Okay, yes. So, yeah, you can just... It basically has the internet fed into it, and it can search through all stuff and come up with basically relatively well-written answers to questions. And what I thought it might be an interesting thing to do is to ask it our question of this week and see what it came up with.
Is this how Skynet started?
It probably is, but I figure we might as well make hay while the sun shines.
Before the blinding nuclear blast shines.
Exactly. So, like, as
Hang on
I
a second, I
said,
just need to go down to the local playground.
hang on to the chain link fence. So our question this week is, why does society consider 50 to be old? And so I asked ChatGPT, and our new segment is called
Ask an AI.
Is society's view on aging related to the fact that humans have only recently extended their lifespans?
Society's view on aging is likely influenced by a variety of factors, including cultural and historical beliefs, as well as advances in medical technology that have allowed people to live longer. In the past, shorter lifespans were the norm, and aging was often associated with decline and loss of productivity. As lifespans have increased, societal views on aging may have shifted to focus more on the potential for older adults to continue to contribute to society and lead fulfilling lives. However, it's important to note that views on aging can vary greatly across different cultures and societies.
Well, that's brilliant. So essentially what you've done is you've converted our 50-odd minute podcast into a 37-second AI blurb. Good work.
yes, but it's not funny, is it?
Well, some would argue that neither is this.
Yeah, fair call. Anyway,
neither are funny, but that one you can finish off in 37 seconds.
Well, who's going to download a 37-second podcast?
True. Also, you missed opportunity there to go, that's what she said.
Sorry. So anyway, now that actually did make a whole lot of sense. But I can tell you something that doesn't make sense. You may have heard, well, there's that. But you may have heard... you may have heard...
Oh, sorry, I thought it was just I thought it was like a free association.
Something else that doesn't make sense. My friend. Something else that doesn't make sense. Something else that doesn't make sense.
Oh, no, I won't talk. There you go.
You finished?
Yep.
You sure?
Yep.
Okay. Something else that doesn't make
you keep
sense
talking, you go.
Is AI illustration. Have you heard about that, CJ?
Sounds like a spelling mistake, but no.
Okay, so AIs just aren't able to write. They're able to draw, and they're able to create photographs. And some of the results...
I can do that.
Yes, but you're not intelligent. Some may argue you're artificial.
I thought you were going to go, you're not artificial. Well, this took a turn. You interrupt somebody a couple of times, all of a sudden.
So, anyway, some of the pictures are quite amazing. There was a lot of you probably have seen them in the paper. I was looking at an article in the conversation, and it's talking about is AI art the future of art? And lots of things can be created that are quite amazing. But there are a few things that AI art can't do. And one of those things is generate a realistic-looking 50-year-old person. Because I was trying to do that. I was making a video for a trailer for the podcast. Trailer for the podcast. And I was trying to get people who looked vaguely, realistically 50. And Mid-Journey, which is the AI that was doing the art generation, kept on giving me people who looked like they were 85. And I kept on sending pictures of them to you, and you're like, no, make them younger. And so I kept on giving it, because you have to type in a command, and I would say, I started off saying, 50-year-old,
make them younger.
50-year-old person doing X, Y, or Z. And they would give me an 85-year-old person doing X, Y, or Z. So then I'd say 40-year-old person doing X, Y, or Z. And they would still look like they were pensionable. Finally, I said 30-year-old person doing X, Y, and Z, and they kind of looked 50. So, I think
Sounds like it should be called AD then, for artificial dumb. Take that, AI. You're artificial dumb.
So it seems like ageism is built into the algorithm.
Ah.
And who builds the algorithms? Would you like to hazard a guess?
Terminators.
No, but they need someone. They need people who are real people before they can get to that point. I'm pretty sure that pretty soon they'll be doing that. But right now, that all the data is fed in by people who are obviously younger than 30. They may be the same, one at the same. But they
have no understanding of anybody who's over 25 is just old.
Exactly. They lump everything in together. So even a podcast of people over 30 could be getting upset about what's coming out of these AI programs. But having said that, there's something else that AI art can't get right, and that's something as simple as hands. Yeah. Have you seen the hands that come out of AI art sometimes? How many fingers
but you need hands.
But how many fingers do you have? It's not a trick question.
Trick questions? Okay. Well, technically I've got 8 and 2 thumbs.
Okay, so you're well and truly ahead of the pack there. Do you think a 3-year-old could tell me how many fingers they have?
Are you suggesting that a 3-year-old is smarter than I am?
I was suggesting that a 3-year-old could tell you that they have the correct amount of fingers that they have.
Right.
But these AIs aren't as smart as a 3-year-old in that they can give you it looks like body horror. Like there's, it's like something between, it's like, a hand drawing that somehow meets human centipede kind of proportions of gross. Sometimes it's hard to look at.
So how many fingers would an average AI hand have?
Well, there's no such thing as an average AI hand because I've seen an AI hand which had like at least 8 fingers.
Right.
Or one finger that's 3 times longer than all the others, or a person that has 3 arms or 3.5 legs. It's a bit like, I don't know, it's like something out of a Stephen King book, I think.
Right. Maybe Stephen King's controlling the AI.
Maybe.
Wake up, Australia.
Maybe they've fed all his collected works into the AI. Anyway, so even though I still propose to go ahead with the Ask an AI segment, but I definitely will be thinking long and hard about using AI art for any of our future videos. So there, AI, take that up your bum.
Take that. This episode for You're Not Helping. This is some stuff from a senior's website. So this is like a proper site that's supposed to be helpful for people over 50.
Right.
Now this is...
But it's not helping.
This is supposedly 50 good things about turning 50.
I don't think I can think of 10 good things, so this should be good.
I do get the impression, though, that whoever wrote this at some point went, shit, I shouldn't have signed up to come up with 50 of these things.
Can I copy and paste and see if anyone notices?
Well, pretty close. It's easier to laugh at yourself, followed by it's easier to laugh at others, followed by it's easier to take life less seriously.
Okay. Yes, I think that's close to being cut and paste.
Yep. Then went into a bit of a roller coaster. You can learn to dance. Right. This is the good thing about being over 50. So apparently you can't learn to dance until you're over 50. If you're coming up to 50 and you can already dance, you're only going to have 49
But
things.
what if I don't want to dance? Do I have to learn how to dance anyway?
You don't have to learn how to dance because you can learn how to dance or you can learn how to sing. Followed by, people expect you to be a bad dancer and no one cares if you're a bad singer. Which is also directly followed by, your inner confidence shines.
Because you're so bad at everything.
Jesus Christ. You should learn to dance, but you'll be shit at it. And that's okay because people expect it. But your inner confidence will shine.
You'll be so demented that you won't know that you aren't good at it.
Some of them were quite oddly specific. Let me ask you this. When you turned 50, was one of the first things you thought about, I can wear glitter and funny sweaters now and laugh at myself.
Followed directly by, I can wear glitter and funny sweaters in public and laugh at myself.
I'm thinking really hard. And I can honestly say that has never occurred to me at any stage in my life.
In the oddly specific category, you can wear red hats that don't match your clothes.
That really is oddly specific.
Sounds like something you'd read on a police report.
What number is that in the list?
That is number 21.
Wow. They got to number 21 and they're already running out and still got 29 to go. No, sorry, 19 to go, sorry. Can't even count. No, 29. I can't count at all. Let's just cut that bit out because clearly I'm so old I can't do maths.
No, it's all good. It's like my dad used to say, there's three types of people in this world, those that can count and those that can't. Turning it to a bit more of a serious note. And I'm going to ask you this because this is 4 items that I'm actually going to ask, do you for this?
Right.
Because it says that here's 4 of the great things that are good about turning 50. Do you stop caring or did you, when you turn 50, stop caring what other people think? I'm assuming that's what other people think about you rather than just what other people think.
Yeah, I don't care about you. Or what.
Yeah, I don't think it's intended to be, I don't care what other people think, like scientists or historians.
Yes. So, yes, to a certain, I'd stopped caring about what other people thought about me to an extent. And the answer to some of the other questions will show different extents. So carry on.
You stopped sweating.
Not totally, but...
Actually, sorry, that went on to the next page. You stopped sweating the small stuff.
I think I accept some things. I accept there's certain things about myself that I can't change now. At this point, I won't be playing soccer for Australia or...
Sounds to me like somebody's got an attitude problem.
But like I've also, there's things that pass me by, and you accept those things. I've set new goals and achieved some new goals. So I think it's
getting out of bed, moving from the kitchen to the lounge room.
So to a greater or lesser extent, meh. Don't know. There's no one answer, that's for sure.
Well, I'm glad we sorted that out.
Do we have any of these other 50 things?
Yes, it's degenerated into a category that I've just called no. So these are not helpful. This is wow. I'm lucky I'm 50 now because I get to use the excuse I'm set in my ways.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to work.
So as an extra bit for you get to use the excuse that I'm set in my ways. This is a quote from T.S. Eliot.
Okay.
See, I'm fucking civilized. Yeah, popped up when I was doing a Pornhub search. The years between it's even funnier when I read it now. The years between 50 and 70 are the hardest.
For those of you listening at home, I may have just killed Scott.
Takes on an entirely different context.
I assume he means most difficult.
Yeah, let's pretend I didn't make a Pornhub reference before this and basically essentially destroyed T.S. Eliot.
It's too late now.
The years between 50 and 70 are the hardest. You're always being asked to do things, and yet you are not decrepit enough to turn them down.
Yeah, that's good. So he definitely wasn't buying the whole "I'm set in my ways" thing.
No. Now, following I'm set in my ways, you have a reason for forgetting things. You also have a reason for losing things.
Forgetting that you've lost things.
That would be a win-win, I think.
All right, two more. You have a better ability to forgive others.
Do I have a better ability to forgive others? I think I have less expectations of people. I think I've had my expectations of people beaten down over the years, so I can probably forgive people for not doing the right thing because I never expected them to in the first place.
So there you go, kids. That's something to look forward to as you get over 50, is that your expectations of people drop until doesn't matter how much they screw you over. You just go, yeah, I expected that.
And wrapping the whole thing up at number 50, you can be as grumpy as you wish.
Who wishes to be grumpy is my question. Do you really wish to be grumpy?
Well, nobody wishes to be grumpy. It's just the fact that you have the opportunity to be grumpy.
So it's basically you get a free pass for being grumpy.
Yeah.
Everyone just goes, oh, it's Scott. He's over 50.
He's a cunt.
Oh, I suppose there's someone who thinks that.
Oh, don't be so hard on yourself. I'm sure there's plenty of people who think that.
Yeah, that's all I've got.
Nice chat, CJ. Okay, I think it's time to wrap it up. So, CJ, do you think we've answered the question?
Well, I think we established that AI answered the question for us, and it answered the question significantly more efficiently than we did. Fuck you, AI. Actually, no, I'm just kidding. Just don't send a Terminator after me.
Okay, but forgetting the AI for a second, do you think our listeners will come away with a better understanding?
Of anything in particular, or probably just generally? No, sure, why not? Yes, of course. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, I am really starting to question why we're doing this.
Concerned that it's taking you this long.
Anyway, so if you found society's expectation of over 50s doesn't align with who you are or how you feel,
And you're not mental,
or your chronological age doesn't match up with your subjective age, or if you just have a great over 50 story to share, drop us a line at
the old folks home 69 at gmail.com, or any of the socials, which is some configuration of old folks home and 69.
Jeez, we've really got to change that.
Yeah, I think it's too late for that now.
Anyway, this is me.
And this is me. Remember, when you listen, to make sure that you get more of this exciting, valuable, and beneficial content, you should follow, rate, and review all episodes.
And if symptoms persist, see your doctor.
Individual results may vary. Artist impression may not represent actual events.
Join us on the next episode of What's My Age Again? Say goodbye, CJ.
Goodbye, CJ.
Is that it?
And now, a word from our sponsors.
Hey Scott, I was reading a book the other day called Funny You Should Ask. Sometimes life and death don't go quite according to plan. It's quite a good book, and I was reading it because we've been paid to advertise it. It's a collection of...
In that case, read away.
It's a collection of 6 short stories, but I like the idea of it because it's 3 that are humorous and 3 that are odd. So it's the blurb on the back is, isn't it funny how funny can be either humorous or odd? Funny You Should Ask, Sometimes Life and Death Don't Go Quite According to Plan, explores the irony, amusement, and drama of life, death, and what happens in between in 6 thought-provoking stories, some humorous, some odd.
Thought-provoking. Well, that's good.
Let me give you an insight into one of the first stories, which is, it just says, when Brandon, a middle-aged guy with a natural talent for mistakes, stumbles across an unusual genie, he has only 3 wishes to try not to follow his usual path, which is actually an interesting story because the genie is essentially it seems to be based on Patrick Swayze's character from Point Break, which I quite enjoyed. So that's one of the funny ha-ha ones.
So the ad is, grab this if you're on the mood for something short and odd. Isn't it funny how funny can be humorous or odd? 6 funny short stories about how sometimes life, death don't go quite according to plan. Asterisk, grab this in the mood if
ad reading.
Grab this if you're in the mood for something short and odd, not recommended as a pickup line. Funny you should ask. Sometimes life and death don't go quite according to plan. Available from Amazon, all good Amazon stores near you. It's available on ebook and both the backs, paper and hard.
Okay, excellent.
Get your copy now. And it's also available on Kindle Unlimited, so you can read it for free if you've got Kindle Unlimited.
Oh, okay, cool. Well, that sounds great.
It doesn't have pictures, but it's short. It has short stories, so it means that I'm not being accused of hogging the bathroom.
Excellent. Excellent.